Boy meets girl, they fall in love, and live happily ever after. That's what Kim and Krickitt Carpenter thought. But 2 months after their wedding, life as they knew it would never be the same. A devastating car wreck left Krickitt with massive head injuries and in a coma for weeks. When she woke up, Krickitt had no idea who Kim was.
Hey, you know who I am, right?
Yeah?
Okay, good.
You're my doctor.
Their story of commitment inspired a Hollywood movie, but in their book, The Vow, Kim and Krickitt tell the true story about their second chance at love. Now, both of you sustained severe injuries during the accident. Krickitt, you more so than Kim. What was the most difficult part of dealing with the aftermath for you?
I think accepting that I had this severe brain damage from my traumatic brain injury. And once I realized that I lost all the memory of meeting, dating, and marrying my husband, because I lost about 1.5 years prior to the car accident, till about 4 months after, it was completely wiped out of my memory. And because my short-term memory was wiped out, I had to accept this new situation that I was in, that I was married to a man named Kim, and I lived in this new town, and I had a new job and new friends that I had no memory of.
Kim, I want to read something from you that you wrote in the book, The Vow. And here you're describing the conversation that Krickitt had with her therapist not long after she came out of the coma. This is what you wrote. He paused before continuing. Krickitt, who's your husband? Krickitt looked at me with eyes void of expression. She looked back at the therapist without answering. Krickitt, who's your husband? Krickitt looked at me again and back at the therapist. I was sure everyone could hear my heart thudding as I waited for my wife's answer in silence and desperation. I'm not married. No, God, please. The therapist tried again. No, Krickitt, you are married. Who's your husband? She wrinkled her brow. Todd, she questioned, her old boyfriend from California. Help her remember, God. Krickitt, please think. Who's your husband? I told you I'm not married. How did you feel when you heard those 3 words, I'm not married?
Shock. I was so taken back. It was a devastating response because I was so full of anxiety. This is the first she had really said anything, but it was devastating. Just horrible to have to listen to those words.
And for you, you talked about this a little bit earlier, but how difficult was it to be married to someone that you didn't even remember?
It was very confusing. There was many days of frustration. But when it really came down to it, I had gotten married, and you make a vow before God in good times and bad, sickness and health. And I had these wedding rings. I had a wedding video. I had pictures of the girl looking exactly like me. So I had obviously done it. And, I knew that I had obviously loved him, because I wouldn't marry someone that I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life with. And it was a challenge, but I needed to be a person of my word and keep my promise. So I was going to stay married to the man that I had, made a vow to, especially when I made that vow before God.
I hope one day I can love the way that you love me.
How do you look at the girl you love and tell yourself it's time to walk away?
The love between the two of you is so obvious. And in the book and the movie, we see the love, Kim, that you have for Krickitt. And at some point, you fell in love with him all over again. How were you able to rebuild your relationship?
Early on, it was a choice. And I chose to love him based on obedience to God, not on feelings that I had, because I had no feelings or memories to hold on to. It was a choice. And I didn't fluffy fall in love with him the way everyone wants to hear it went that way, but it didn't. It was a choice. And my love grew for him, as we spent more time together and got to know each other. And I think we have a deeper love and a true love now. And our love developed over time.
What was the experience like for you?
Well, I never stopped loving her. I had my doubts about as much as we were going through that we were going to make it, but I wasn't going to leave her until she was able to live a quality of life on her own, and to be able to be in a position to where she could competently tell me that it wasn't going to work. But God had different plans, and here we are today.
Now, you just mentioned God. And one thing I noticed about the movie is that it omits faith, your faith, and a role that it plays in your story. So I want to ask first, Krickitt, you had memory loss. Did your faith remain intact? And secondly, I want to ask the both of you, what role did your faith play in helping you to overcome everything?
You know, it did. Because my spirit and my soul are still the same. So I had a sense of who I was spiritually. Even though I lost a 2-year period, I knew where I was with the Lord. And it was about 4 or 5 months after the car accident when I realized that I hadn't had a quiet time and that I hadn't been journaling. And so that it was that day that I went and got a new journal, and that's when I started my walk again with the Lord. And, I had to get to know him probably in a new way. But it was the Lord that, allowed us to survive. And I really held on to Scripture, especially Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Without the Lord in our relationship, we wouldn't have made it.
Mm-hmm.
We had great foundation and stability from my in-laws and my parents in that they celebrated over 100 anniversaries together so far. But faith was extremely, extremely important in all of this, and you can't weather a storm like this without God, being there.
Mm-hmm.